For today's video, we're going to be taking a spin on a deck that I've been dying to test out, and now that I've got some games in on it, I'm actually kind of a big fan. So this is the Frostbite Ashe kind of mid-range list, and I feel like it is potentially well positioned right now, largely because it gives you the ability to tech in Reckoning. So I'm going to go through the list, and then as always, we're going to give you an example game as well. But I kind of want to talk about why I think this list is well positioned, and the answer is that it is an aggressive list, but not hyper aggro, right? You are proactive, you're trying to attack your opponent, but then during your attack rounds, you're going to be taking advantage of a lot of really cool combat tricks and just getting the most for what you do put on the board. So we have Brittle Steel and Elixir of Iron. If you're playing anything Freljord, these are traditionally auto includes. Brittle Steel for anytime you want Frostbite effects, and Elixir anytime you're a proactive Freljord list, because being able to protect your units is really important. So no surprise here. Same thing with Omen Hawk. Omen Hawk does a lot for us by buffing the other units in our deck, and later on in the list I'll talk about a couple of specific units you really want to target, but it also just gives you a nice kind of early game play blocker. It's a 1-drop that, you know, late in the game isn't the end of the world if you draw it because of the potential benefits you'll get. The nice thing about Omen Hawk is that it grants the top 2 allies. So anytime you play Omen Hawk, you're going to start getting immediate value once you draw into additional units. It's significantly better than if it was just, you know, buff 2 random units in your deck. So again, it's pretty much a Freljord staple in a lot of lists. Iceveil Archer. This is for helping you to level up your Ashe. The leveled up Ashe is very, very important because it makes it not just so that your opponent has unfavorable blocks, but in many cases so that they can't block at all. This is also just a great unit for those fearsome matchups because it has the 3 attack. Yes, you're a little vulnerable to something like Vile Feast, but it gives you blockers against somebody who opens up with like Arachnid Horror, that sort of thing. All right. Legion Drummer. This card is actually outstanding in this list, and even more so, we'll just kind of jump down here. Trifarian Glory Seeker is also great in this list. These two kind of, I think, help emphasize what this list is all about. So on your attack turns, you want to make things very uncomfortable for your opponents. Glory Seeker here is like a constant source of removal. The one drawback, again, is the 1 health, so you are vulnerable to Vile Feast and a couple of other things, but the fact that this thing swings for 5, and it's only a 2 mana investment, and then when you combine it with things like your Frostbite effects, then you can usually get some pretty solid trades. If you combine it with something like Legion Drummer, giving this quick attack, then you also get some pretty outstanding trades. Legion Drummer is also a great way to help protect your Ashe as well. So Ashe, you know, when she's a 5/3 but also has quick attack, then she becomes far more resilient, and it allows you to continue swinging with Ashe. You want to be attacking with Ashe as much as possible in this list, and Legion Drummer, for the most part, gives you the ability to kind of protect Ashe. They'll have to get rid of the drummer first and then try to trade with Ashe in combat, or they have to use a spell. In the case of a spell, a lot of times there's not much you can do. If they hit it with like Will of Ionia, that's an issue. Going back to Omen Hawk, Ashe is a great target. That's one of the units you want to hit with Omen Hawk because the jump from 3 health to 4 health is very relevant. At 4 health, you're outside of Black Spear range, you're outside of Grasp of the Undying range. So that's one of the key units you kind of want to catch there. Culling Strike, this is in here just for, you know, targeted removal specifically against some of those pesky units. Early on against elusives, it can be very good. It can help you deal with things like Ezreal, Heimerdinger, etc. Ezreal is a bit of a... It's a very specific case because you have to hope that they make mistakes, and then you can punish their Ezreal. A good player, if they are suspecting a Culling Strike in that particular matchup, then they will oftentimes hold on to Ezreal and then play that as a finisher, and then they'll finish you with burst spells, and there's nothing you can do. But if players do have some reason to play Ezreal early on, maybe they have a bricked hand, something like that, then you can punish them. Using Culling Strike to just kind of punish your opponent in general is very satisfying. Flash Freeze, again, more Frostbite effects to help you level up Ashe, but again, we're also running Rime Fang Wolf. This is another card that just pairs very nicely in this list because Ashe specifically always Frostbite's the strongest enemy, even before the trigger goes kind of like on the stack when you're getting ready to declare your attackers, you can pretty safely pull something with Rime Fang because you're going to know exactly which unit is going to get hit with the Frostbite. So the same way that Glory Seeker and Legion Drummer pair together, Ashe and Rime Fang can pair together, and once you start getting multiples of these out, it can be very interesting to see the chain of events and how you use these on attack effects to kind of protect each of your other units and get these favorable trades. This list very much is trying to make your opponent uncomfortable when you are attacking. On the defensive side, there's a lot of times where you either kind of have to take it or you have to use some of your Frostbite effects defensively, but in many cases, your big emphasis is on your attack turns. All right, speaking of cards that you want to hit with Omen Hawk, Trifarian Assessor. So this card is kind of bonkers in decks where you have a large number of units that have 5 or more attack power. And because we're playing with Freljord and we have both Omen Hawks and I'll just go ahead and hop down here, we have Hearthguard here as well. If this is ever buffed, it will count itself when you play it. So if this is hit by an Omen Hawk or you've already played at least one Hearthguard, then this will always become, I play it and I draw a card. But this thing has the potential to be like I pay 4 and I get a unit and then I draw like 3 or 4 cards. And a lot of times, especially against control lists, that can be enough to win you the game because they're trying to play that attrition game. And if you can get that kind of a big play before they've had a chance to blow out your board, then you'll jump so far ahead in resources that it makes it really hard for them to kind of come back from that amount of pressure. So this card is outstanding. I'm a big fan. Hearthguard, as I said, it's here to buff this. It's also, you may have noticed, right, we have all these really cool on attack creatures and effects, and then we've got sweet combat tricks, but we don't have a lot of beef for defense. As I said before, things are a little bit awkward for the first, few attack rounds when you are the defending player. Hearthguard is in here because it helps buff up units, and then honestly the 5/5 stat line means it's like the best blocker in your entire deck. So this is where hopefully you've kind of established a board to make them, be uncomfortable on your attack turns, and then by the time this is coming down, some combination of this plus, favorable trades on your turns plus your combat tricks is hopefully enough to have slowed them down on the defensive side of things. And Harsh Winds, again, helping with that defensive side of things, helping to trigger your Ashe. And then Reckoning. Reckoning is the reason I kind of wanted to try this list out. And it's because I think Reckoning is insanely powerful in the current meta. There are so many things that it takes care of, but specifically if you've banked spell mana, it's one of the very few on-curve answers to the Troop of Elnuck's Plague that is on the ladder at the moment, because if they have not buffed their Elnucks and they hit a troop, and even if they, high roll and they get 3 extra bodies, a lot of times, they're spending their mana to play troop. They don't have any way to respond to Reckoning, and then you just slap down a Reckoning. And we've got a lot of 5 attack power cards like Ashe, like Glory Seeker, and then because of some of the other buffs in the deck, this has 5 attack power, but then because of Omen Hawk and things like that, you likely have other potential triggers. You resolve Reckoning, and it is amazing. Reckoning is also something that helps you out in other mid-range matchups. So specifically if you are running into a lot of the Shadow Isles, Mist Wraith kind of style decks, Reckoning is great at dealing with a lot of their big power plays. So if they play, Wraithcaller, for example, until their Mist Wraiths are at 5 or more attack power, this will deal with the units that is being created by that, powerful effect. Now, the big one, the big reason why I'm a big Reckoning fan, as I say the word big way too many times there, is that it answers Rekindler into Hecarim very nicely. Both of those units being at 4 attack power. You know, you're kind of going throughout the game and you're at kind of a bit of a tipping point. You answer the first Hecarim, they slap down that Rekindler into the second Hecarim, and then you answer that with a Reckoning. A lot of times that will just kind of close out the game for you. Reckoning is just really well positioned. It's very good against elusives as well, up until Jeweled Protector comes online. After Jeweled Protector, they can hit a point where they start to outvalue you. That's the point where you really want to rely on your Frostbite effects a bit more. Specifically, cards like Harsh Winds are better in the late game against elusives than, say, Reckoning. But in the early stages, you know, pre-Jeweled Protector, Reckoning is great. Ideally, in that particular setup, you're going to trade back and forth, and then hopefully right around the time they play their first Jeweled Protector, you want to Reckoning the board so that you wipe their side and you still have a board. They're going to play their buffed up unit, and it will likely have more than 5 attack power by the time it comes down anyway. And then that's when you want to start answering with your Frostbite effects to just kind of suppress it for a few turns and use that tempo advantage. But anyway, that's the list. As always, I'm going to put the deck code in the video description, and we're going to go play a game on the list so that you can get an idea of what it looks like when it's piloted. And let's go do that now. All right, so we're jumping into a game, and it looks like it's going to be against the... Well, it's got a lease. A lot of times you see Zed if it's like the ephemeral list, so it's entirely possible that instead we see this just be like the Mist Wraith list, and maybe they're also still running Deny. We like the Ashe, we love the Omen Hawk. I think we're going to send the Wolf back though, and instead we're going to try to find a better 2-drop. Instead our hand gets worse. But the Shuffler, I don't know what it is, but they love throwing stuff back to me that I just mulliganed. Alright, so we're going to bank some spell mana here. They go to full spell mana. Ah, so this Reckoning is going to be potentially really good post-Ashe. And we're going to go ahead and do this. We could also have just used Culling Strike, but this is just better in terms of mana efficiency. Yeah, we're okay with that. Alright, so Ashe comes down.
On one arrow.
So with Ashe, we're really worried about cards like Black Spear. We would love to attack with Ashe. It's going to Frostbite this. And then we have a potential Culling Strike for this. However, with 1 mana left, if we try to take that trade, if we try to pull that off, a Mark of the Isles just outright shuts us down. So we're just actually going to pass here. And the reason we're passing is we desperately need our Ashe to survive, because that's the only unit we have that's allowing us to play Reckoning at the moment. So we're just going to go ahead and try that. Now they could just Black Spear us post-Reckoning, but... this is a pretty important board clear for us.
A true Freljordian welcome.
We're going to do this because, again, we can't really block that with Ashe, so this just buys us time, develops. I assume we're going to see... oh, okay. Feast we're fine with. Another reckoning. Okay.
Show me a target.
This does basically mean this trades with the 1/1 if we go this route. We could leave this back, which would let them put some damage on the Ashe.
Swiftly now.
We also could just play the Assessor.
As the arrow flies.
Yeah, let's
Swiftly
do
now.
this. They haven't had the Black Spear yet, so if they have it, it would have been something that they just recently top decked. So they're just going to do this and glimpse. I think that at this point, because we've got card lead and a board lead, as bad as this looks, denying this card draw I think is very relevant. So this might be a second glimpse, and it is, but we at least shut down the first one. So they still draw the cards, but they end up even, and we still have board position. This is, you know, these kind of mid-rangey mirrors are a bit about making the most of what you got. Actually, I think we're going to bank our spell mana here. If they take an open attack, then we can go with blocks plus Harsh Wind. If they play something like Hecarim before they attack, then we can drop another Reckoning. I think so far we're still fine with taking the Harsh Winds plan. Alright. So there's another Skitterer. So now we'll play this, and then again we're just gonna Harsh Winds here.
Slither out from the darkness. Lead the target. I'll lead us to victory!
So this is also very relevant in terms of where you were placing stuff, because now even Mark of the Isles doesn't kill here. We're gonna take some damage, but it's really not the end of the world in this particular instance. So they're going to get the opportunity to play something else, but this is still going to make it so that nothing here can block.
A gift
And then whatever other unit they play, that will be frostbitten when we declare her as an attacker.
We each died, then found home.
Alright, this could be, again, one hell of a reckoning. But we would lose some of these units, so I think that instead...
As the arrow flies.
So, again, this is going to be frostbitten
The time is right. Strike now.
by her ability. But we'll get rid of the Elise here. And I think we're gonna... Now let's just cycle this to draw the card. I was gonna say, I think we were gonna bank our spell mana, but I really like just getting another body down. The reason to consider saving this is because post-Reckoning it gives us another body that we can play, but... cycling it means it kind of replaces itself, so I'm fine with that. Yeah, I think this is fine. They have 2 cards left, but they still can't play Hecarim here. We lose 3, but they lose their entire board. 3 cards in hand to 2. This is just the power of this card. Specifically, as I was saying before, in these Shadow Isles matchups, there's just not many units they have that hit that 5 attack power threshold. Alright, so they're going to will just to prevent the open attack from us this next turn. Oh, they are preventing the Reckoning. I understand now. This is also still fine. We still have a lot of value trades that we can take here. So with 1 card left, as long as we block here, right? 7. Even if this is Mark, we'd only be at 2. Like why even? I positioned these wrong. This one should be over here. We should be saving the 4-3, not the 4-1. So don't do what Charmer did, okay? Make sure you're actually paying attention to what's going on. I got lazy. All right.
Many tribes under one banner.
So they are going to glimpse, and there's not a lot we can do about that. That should be their final glimpse, though.
All the world on
So if we could
one
find like
arrow.
another assessor, we could pretty well catch up in terms of the card draw. All right, so
Now,
this is going to be frostbitten by her ability.
the time is right. Strike now.
So if we do this, it means they have to lose Elise as a blocker, and then they still go down to 1. Now what we're worried about here is like a Hecarim follow-up. Okay, Grasp is pretty good just because they also heal.
Cold.
That Assessor is exactly what we were looking for, though. I was gonna say, we would really like them to second guess the attacks here.
Faster than my arrow? I think not.
They're probably really tired of seeing me play Ashe at this point, but
Few earn the right to call themselves Trifarian.
As the arrow
alright,
flies.
so if we do this, then they'll have no blockers. So we hit them on the open attack on the way back. And that's it. So I really am glad that this game actually turned out the way it did, because you got to see how powerful Reckoning is. You got to see how you can kind of order your attacks. You got to see good old Charm Daddy make some positioning mistakes like I always do. But you see the power of the deck and what it's trying to do. Like I said, in this meta right now, I actually think it's pretty well positioned. It does great against Mist Wraith oriented decks and those Shadow Isles decks. It does great for the elusive matchup up until Jeweled Protector comes online. I'm just a fan. So anyway, hopefully this video helps you. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and you know, maybe consider subscribing, or don't. I'm not your dad, but it would be nice. It's free. Push the button. Yeah. I love you guys. Thanks for watching.